All right, everybody, we're going to be talking today a little bit about Jefferson at the turn of the 1800s bringing some massive change to the United States of America. Not just the government, but the impact would be felt across the United States as a whole. So the first section you're going to fill in on your web, you're going to need to use the key here. And at this point, if you're clicking on this and hearing my voice, that means you've gone through that step. But you're going to take a look at each of these little sections here one by one. So I want to start with cutting the power of the central government. One of the things that Jefferson was adamant about was anti-federalism. He believed that the government that governed the least governed the best. And he feared a very strong federalist government. That's why he and Alexander Hamilton were such polar opposites on the first cabinet that George Washington had put together. So when he comes into office in 1800, the election's 1800, so he'll take office in early 1801. One of the goals that he's going to have is to cut the overall power of the central government. So he's going to do a few things here, and I'm going to take you through the list very quickly. One of the things he does by the time he gets in is to make sure that the Alien and Sedition Acts have been eliminated. Remember, those were put into place during John Adams' administration, largely to quell any type of controversy or criticism of the federal government, John Adams in particular, with his steps to combat the French during, the undeclared quasi-war with France that was taking place. So Jefferson, we know, along with Madison, wrote the Virginia and Kentucky resolutions, and they had pushed back, seeing these as unconstitutional laws. And by the time he gets in office, they have either been in process of being eliminated or he totally eliminates them. Another goal that he's going to have is to continue to reduce the national debt. Now, that's something that was actually put into place with Alexander Hamilton back under George Washington, so that's not necessarily a federalist or an anti-federalist thing. It was just at that point in history, debt was clearly a bad thing, and personal debt was not looked at favorably. Governmental debt certainly was not looked at favorably, as it was something that was almost an embarrassment for international politics. So he was going to continue to try to balance the budget, find ways to bring revenue in while being very cost efficient. We'll talk more about that in the next one, and get the debt back down to break-even point of zero. Now, at the same time, he wanted to try to reduce national taxes. So that's kind of almost polar opposite of reducing the debt. Most of the time, if you, as a government agency, if you're trying to reduce the debt, you tend to raise taxes because that's your main revenue stream. In other words, how do you make money as a government? Well, the main way you make money is you tax your citizens, and you basically are able to legally just take the money and use it. Now I don't want that to be sort of mixed up with the idea of stealing, because that's not what it is. It's necessary for a government to tax its citizen to provide the services and the protections that we are afforded as citizens of that country. But typically, if you're in debt, you have to tax people to get out of it in some way, shape, or form. So he's going to be creative with that. We'll talk a little bit more about those other areas in the next two sections. So that's your first section in the upper left-hand corner of the chart.